Yeah, that's right. Chief James Cetran was just served a notice from town manager Gary Evans that he intends to fire him. But the chief will have an opportunity to fight back. A public hearing is set for June 15th.
Crime is on the rise.
Chief James Cetran has been accused of violating rules and regulations when he unretired just weeks after agreeing to retire. Ken Slater is Wethersfield's town attorney.
The town manager decided that the chief of police should be dismissed.
Cetran's attorney, Rachel Baird, told Fox 61 the chief decided not to retire because the town didn't follow through on their promises.
It was promised to him that he would be able to commence and complete the promotion process for the open position of lieutenant at the department.
Cetran, after 47 years of service, 18 as chief, was suspended by town manager Gary Evans for 2 months last November for insubordination. Cetran says Evans was trying to make him violate the police union's collective bargaining agreement. Leo Chaprone is a retired Hartford police detective and friend of the chief.
You're never going to find a better guy. He's not old-fashioned. He's not afraid of change. You know, he just knows what works and what doesn't work.
But the Wethersfield PD has not gone without controversy under Cetran's leadership. Cetran jumped to defend his officer after the 2019 deadly shooting of Anthony Vega Cruz, sparking protests.
Hands up! Hands up!
And Wethersfield chronically appears on a list compiled by the Connecticut Racial Profiling Prohibition Project as a town that disproportionately conducts traffic stops on people of color. Ken Barone is the project manager and claims Chief Cetran isn't interested in their findings.
We haven't had direct interactions in a number of years, mostly because they were not. They weren't productive.
If you look at that report, it says that racial profiling cannot be ruled out with regard to the evidence. I'd like to know a city or a municipality in the United States of America where racial profiling can't be ruled out.
And Wethersfield's town manager says he's also upset because the town gave money to Cetran's attorney for reimbursement of legal fees. And the town was also knee-deep in the search for a new chief when Cetran suddenly decided to unretire. Cetran's fate now rests in a vote of the town council. And if Cetran doesn't like the way that turns out, he does have the option to appeal to the Superior Court. For now, we're live outside the Wethersfield Police Department. Matt Caron, Fox 61 News.